asked that there would be, there are, sorry, there is actually a moderator. Wahid Bhatti Saab would be moderating this webinar. And when he starts, he just introduce himself and the Overseas Progressive Pakistanis and the scope of this webinar. And then later he will introduce our speakers one by one, and then one speaker first on social issues, and then the other speaker on economic issue. After that, we would open the forum, and I would suggest you all that whoever wants to make his opinion or who wants to ask question, he can, but you need to ask the moderator so that we could arrange in order that everybody is there, and in order they can give their opinion, and they can also ask the question from our honorable speakers. So I'm going to mute all of you. You can unmute, but I would suggest that please don't interrupt or cut the conversation between when the speakers and the moderators are speaking, and after when we open the discussion, then you can do it. So I am inviting Wahid Bhatti Saab. Wahid Bhatti Saab, please.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, everyone is hearing you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Ji, also good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum from my side. I hope that everyone is safe and healthy. And if somebody among your acquaintances, friends, or family has been affected by COVID-19, I hope we all wish them speedy and good recovery. As Amir Rana said, this is the first time we are hosting an online dialogue. So if there are some gaps here and there, some technical hiccups, then please forgive us for that. I hope we will get better with the passage of time. As we always do with the selection of a topic for our discussion, we always do it a democratic way. We float a number of topics on social media to our supporters and our friends and people, members of OPP. And we speak with them actually individually at quite length and discuss which topic is the most relevant topic and is of most interest to everyone. And then we choose that topic accordingly. This topic was slightly difficult to choose in the sense that we are living with it for last almost 3 months, and 24 hours a day we are hearing only corona crisis, virus, COVID-19, whether it's social media, newspapers, or television. So there's a lot being discussed. And this is probably the most discussed topic ever for such a long time. But interestingly, the more we talk about it and the more we read about it, the more it feels that we know very little about it. So there was this paradox, and a lot of people were interested in it to talk about it. Before I go to the actual topic, just very quickly, 2 slides on introduction of OPP, because this is for some of our participants for the first time that they are taking part in one of our dialogues. So very quickly, the purpose, as we have explained or described on our website, is OPP is a platform for the people of Pakistani origin, could be others as well, to promote progressive values in a multicultural environment. Our vision statement is very simple, 3 words or 4 words: unity in diversity. Our mission statement reads, strive to eliminate exploitation and discrimination through meaningful dialogues. And then we have our inclinations. Politically, we believe in democracy, human rights, minority rights, and gender equality. In religious terms, there are, of course, lots of debates. We believe in the separation of the state and religion and considering religion as a private matter. Our social inclination is that we believe in integration of all kinds of population groups and peoples tolerance, acceptance of each other, and we are always concerned about the environment. We have been doing this for 3 years now. We are into our third year, fourth year. In 2017, these are some of the events we held at the Vrije University in Amsterdam. So always all these very, very relevant, interesting topics which generally people want to talk about, but somehow they don't come to that. Then in 2018, we had also, you can see on the picture, some of very prominent speakers and personalities who have been keynote speakers at our events and leading the discussion. Then in 2019, we also had quite a few, including human rights and so forth. And this year we had so far just one with Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed. And other one on Women's Day, International Women's Day, was postponed because of Corona, and the today's event which we are having now. So that was the quick introduction. If anyone is interested in any more details about OPP, you can always call any one of us, or you can visit our website, send us an email, follow us on social media. And so there are plenty of possibilities to get to know more about this. Now, we have two experts today in our panel, and that is Shamsi Saab and Naeem Saab, and they both will handle different topics. I will come to that. We have a couple of more experts among our participants. So if there are specific questions which relate to their fields of medical or something else, they might jump in, or we might ask them to jump in and handle that particular question. But today, our focus is going to be on social and economic impact. And why on social economic impact? Because this is the most lasting impact probably, which we are going to have on our lives. And because we believe that as a Pakistani community or immigrants or kids of immigrants, families of immigrants, we have a slightly different lifestyle. We probably live slightly differently, maybe in a smaller space, majority of us, maybe with bigger families. And perhaps most of us are involved in the professions which are slightly different, where more people come together, whether it's, so it's more manual labor sometimes, where a lot of people work together. So we tend to be slightly more vulnerable as far as the coronavirus is concerned. So if we look at it, look at the coronavirus, it has exposed really both good and bad in us. A lot of good has come out in us. If you look at this picture from the top left, I mean, we have people playing music on their balconies, singing opera songs on their balconies to show solidarity. And we have, on the other hand, you have lots of people trying to find their dead, bury their dead in tears, and people who are confined at home and singing. But on the other hand, people who work in these professions, medical and related, who have been working 18, 19, 20 hours a day and giving their best. So it has exposed solidarity and selfishness. A lot of contradictions have emerged in our society. We see then also that the differences between rich and poor have become, they were always there, and we knew that they were increasing, but they have become much more prominent in this. And then between strong and weak, between natives and immigrants, between majorities and minorities. And talking about immigrants, as you know, there are over 270 million immigrants who are floating around the world and who live in ghettos or camps, overcrowded. And they are very, very, very risky target group at this time for coronavirus. We have seen the contradiction between healthcare and the free market emerging. What is right between old and young? Also, yeah, let the old die and try to preserve the young. We have seen the contradiction between civil liberties and surveillance. So we have a lot of this going on. We see also between science and spirituality, some contradictions emerging. And last but not least, the lower two pictures which Naeem Saab is going to talk about at length, is the economic upswing and downswing and downturn. So let me go to our panelists. Having said that, this brief introduction to the topic, why we have selected this topic and what kind of scope we are going to cover. within this topic today. Our two expert panelists, and we welcome both of you, and honestly, very, very, very grateful that you agreed to come today and speak to us, and or speak to all of us. There was a very nice quote I found on Arshad Shamsi's LinkedIn profile, his underlying motivation, if you wish. He says, "My dream is to build a sustainable world in which my two lovely daughters can live happy and purposeful lives." And it's a very, very high level ambition if you think about it. So that makes him already a very attractive person whose heart is absolutely in the right place. His background is that he is a corporate happiness expert, and this has become over the last years a very important vertical business or profession, the corporate happiness. He has been building purpose-driven organizations and leading them through the change, and we all know that this purpose is the new buzzword actually for organizations, that they have to have a purpose. Why do they exist? Why do people go there to work every day? What is their role in the society, and so on and so forth. And he has trained over 800 professionals in leadership and personal development. He's co-founder of several companies, so Orenda, Hack Your Future. He's been consultant with the social cause at Equint and senior consultant at Synocean. If I have missed something, I'm sure Shamsi Saab will himself cover when he talks about himself and about his views. Our second panelist, our second panelist, so he has, think, Naeem Saab, ये 10 साल पुरानी picture तो नहीं है? Can you hear me?
Yeah, he can hear you, but he's mute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, please.
He can't say anything.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nice.
Okay. Just 1 year old, sir.
Our second, oh, thank you. Our second expert panelist, and welcome, and really, really grateful that you could make it, and very nice to have you. His kind of quote he gave me was, "All valuable things are fragile and require constant maintenance." So he's obviously a person who values the things, who understands the fragility of important and valuable things, and is involved in maintaining them and sustaining them. His background is an independent risk and audit consultant. He has been or is still lecturer at Nijrode Business University at The Hague and The Hague University. And those who don't know, Nijrode University is the best and the most prestigious business university in the Netherlands. He provides in-company training and masterclasses. He's editor of a large audit magazine, and Naeem believes that the people's behavior ultimately determines whether the results are achieved, whether results achieved are of lasting value. So having said that, we'd invite both of our expert panelists in this order. If first we can have Arshad Shamsi Saab, just taking us through his views on the social impact of coronavirus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Waitsab. Let me put my screen on.
Let me get
Waitsab, आप अपनी screen off कीजिए.
Yes. I'm getting out of it. Stop share. Okay, I'm out.
Go. Let me see. Here it is. Share screen. Share.
Yeah.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
So,
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Thank you very much, Waitsab, for the lovely introduction.
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
And yeah, when I spoke to Waitsab, he asked me, can you share your views on the social impact of this COVID-19? I had a lot of thoughts about it, and I said, well, first of all, social is a very broad subject. So I will be talking today about a certain part of the social aspect, which I will share with you in a little while. Waitsab gave me the professional introduction, but let me give you my personal introduction also. This is in Dutch, but in a short overview, my career, I started off as a commercial pilot. Then I went into IT consulting. I was successful in that, but I was inside, I was not happy as a person because I felt I was not doing any purposeful work. Then about 6 years ago, I found this little note, which I wrote when I was 9 or 10 years old. And it literally says, when I grow up, I want to become a clown because I want to make people laugh and happy. I know I will not earn a lot of money, but I don't care. I just want to make people happy. So this was for me another indication that every human on this planet has a personal purpose, why he's here, and what talents he has to bring to the world. And well, 6 years ago, I quit my job and I founded my own company, focusing on building happy corporations and more purposeful corporations. What I want to talk to you today about is, I've made a small agenda. First of all, what is the impact of mainly the social isolation which we are in, the lockdown and the 6 feet society. Then I want to touch upon a little bit of general knowledge about, okay, what are the basic human needs we have socially and how are they affected by this social isolation? And then I want to look at the topic of stress and anxiety and really bring it to a personal level. How can you deal with the stress and anxiety which can be caused by social isolation and COVID-19 and worries about health and things like this? After that, I would like to give you a few tips, and then we can have an open dialogue and have your questions and make it informal, please. So this is the agenda for my talk. I hope it meets your expectations. Before we go into the impact of COVID, I would like to share with you a little bit of data. What was the social status in the world prior to COVID? Because that's, I think, important to take into account. If you look before COVID, in society, you must have all read about it and seen it, that, for example, in the Netherlands, there is a lot of stress-related diseases. Burnout is on the rise. So already in the world, there is you could call it a pandemic of mental diseases going on. So there was a lot of stress among people. So so the interesting part is, how has that changed due to COVID? Secondly, in the Netherlands, even when we didn't have social isolation, there is a lot of loneliness in the Netherlands already without COVID, and not only among the elder, also among the youth. I personally believe that this statistic is more for the non-Pakistani society, luckily, but maybe even among the Pakistani society, this is something which could be there. I just wanted to give you this context that even prior to COVID-19, there were a few big challenges we are having in society from a social point of view. Yeah, I always like the statistic that if you look at history, on average, we work much less hours now than we used to work, for example, 60 or 100 years ago. But we are more busy than ever and always connected. So not necessarily are we happier because we just don't have a lot of time for that always. We're always busy, running. So this is the situation which I see before COVID-19. Now let's look at what has happened since COVID-19. Well, you read a lot about unemployment in the Netherlands, and I think we haven't seen it, the real impact yet, but I expect over the months we will see companies, of course, being bankrupt and then leading to a massive unemployment. So this is something which is a big social thing happening all over the world and also in the Netherlands. Abuse, abuse of in households, of children, of women. This is also which has spiked up since the lockdown on a global level. So this is a huge social impact which we see because of the lockdown. Thirdly, the number of divorces have also spiked up since COVID. I cannot give you an explanation why. I have some ideas, but this is a statistic which we see. Then again, I think the divorce numbers in the Pakistani society is of course less than in the non-Pakistani society, but nevertheless, we are all humans, and two people sitting closely together a whole day will also create some tensions and frictions at home. So this is something to be aware of. Many studies have been done about the impact of social isolation, and it shows that if people are socially isolated, it has a huge negative impact on your health, psychological and even physiological. The research shows that if you are in social isolation, that it equals smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and it increases your risk on things like dementia and stroke and cancer. So social isolation is not good for humans. The impact of job loss is also negatively impacting our health. Let's look at why this is. Before I share that, well, we will go into that after a little while, but there, as Wahid Saab said also, these are a lot of negative impacts of the COVID-19, but there are also some positive impacts. For example, in the USA, which is crazy if you look at it, last month was the first month, or March was the first month since 2002 that there was not a single shooting in school in the USA. So I think COVID-19 has also given us an opportunity to really sit back and pause and reset and think what's going on in the world. I always like this image, and maybe you can take a few seconds to read it. That we were constantly just on the go, working to earn more money and do this and that, and not having time to really think about what's important in your life and why are you doing it. So I think the positive side of COVID-19 could be for a lot of people that they have also had a moment of pause to rethink their life. What am I doing? What do I find important? Do I want to go back to that rat race, or do I cherish other things more? For example, your health or your family, etc. Do we need to step into the car every day to go sit in traffic to go to the office? Can we work from home? So as Mr. Wade Saab also said, I think the COVID-19 has a lot of negative sides, but also positive sides. So after giving you these statistics, I would like to ask you a question. I told you a lot about the negative side and a few positive sides. Do you feel positive about the effects of COVID-19 or positive? Just reflect on that for a little second. My guess is that the majority will still have a negative feeling about COVID-19. That unemployment, debts, abuse rising up. And that is very normal. Why is it? That's very normal. Because humans are wired to be negative and pessimistic. That's how we are being programmed. And why is it? Why is it that when we see something negative, that sticks to us longer than when we see something positive? If I give you an example, if you look at the statistics, only 0.3% of the casualties of COVID are children. But when we read the news about a child dying of COVID, we say, oh, it's dangerous and it's also going to hit the children. That is because, as I said, we are programmed to be pessimistic and negative, because when we were living in the old days, when we are still living in the jungle and we were hunters and gatherers, we were constantly looking for dangers around us. Because there were a lot of dangers. You had to look out for a lion who could attack you or anything else. So because of, if you look at evolution, we have always been at the looking out for dangers. That is still in our system. So we are more prone towards negative information. If you look at our mind, 95% of our thinking is subconscious. We are not conscious of those thoughts. And 70% of that is programmed negatively because of your childhood. If your parents told you, Arshad, this is not good, you got to do this is dangerous, be careful. That's the way your subconscious gets programmed to be more negative. So this is normal. every human being is more prone to negativity than positivity. Later on, we'll see why this is important to be aware of this and how you can deal with this. Let's talk a bit about human needs. Why is it that because we are in social isolation, why does it affect our health, psychological and physiological both? Why is it so bad for our health, equal to smoking 15 cigarettes a day? In 1944, there was an experiment which I think is the most cruel experiment ever done, but it's a very important experiment. What they did is in 1944, they took 40 newborn babies. Chote bache, they were newborn, they put them in a hospital. 20 of these babies, they told the nurses, you are not allowed to touch them, to give them any care, any attention, any love, just change their diapers, give them a feed and wash them, that's all. No affection, no touching. The other 20, they could give them care and attention and everything. Within several weeks, they had to stop the experiment because a few of the babies who did not receive touching actually died. It's a terrible experiment, but it shows that human interaction, love, and also physical touch is a basic human need for survival. You cannot live without it. That's how important it is. That's why if you are living in social isolation, it's very bad for your health. The second human need, the Harvard University has done a research, which is the longest research on happiness of people, and it has been going on for over 75 years. What they did is they took two groups of people, one group of men which were well off, they were graduates from Harvard University and they had good jobs, and the other group of people, they were labor class and they didn't have such good jobs and they were poor. And they just kept on asking these people for 75 years, all kinds of questions related to their happiness and well-being. What they found after 75 years, there was one conclusion, that the people who had meaningful relationships, those were the people who were happiest and healthiest. So the key conclusion was, if you want to live a happy life, the most important thing is to have strong, meaningful relationships. And we are not talking about 700 friends on Facebook. We are talking about 4 or 5 people, 3 or 4 in your life, which really you have a strong bond with. So human relationships and physical touching and attention is key for humans to survive in this world. And these things have been affected tremendously because of the social distancing, and we do not know what the future is going to bring. So I gave you a little bit of background of what was the situation pre-COVID, what is the effect of COVID on a positive side, on a negative side, and why is it affecting us so badly because of the human needs we have. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about, okay, what is stress and anxiety, and why are we feeling stress and anxiety possibly because of the COVID-19 situation. There is this lovely book written called Why Zebras Don't Have Ulcers. Why is it that animals don't have all these stress-related diseases? Why do humans have it? Well, that's because when the zebra is walking in the jungle and a lion attacks the zebra, he will get stressed, he will run away, or he will freeze, and then the stress is gone. The next day, when the zebra is walking in the jungle, he will not be thinking, oh, the lion will come again, and he's not going to constantly worry about the jungle. He forgets it. But we humans, the problem is we are constantly thinking about what could happen. What could be the threat? I could lose my job. I could get divorced. I could get sick because of COVID. And constantly, even those things are maybe not really realistic threats, we are thinking and worrying, and that gives us stress. And 90% of the illness is stress related. That's why we have all these issues. And the problem is our immune system is negatively impacted by stress. And what is the most important thing nowadays to cope with the COVID-19 virus is a strong immune system. So I believe that, of course, social distancing, hygiene, these things are important. But as important is to boost your immune system by doing stress control. And I would like to talk a little bit about that, how you can do that on a personal level, and why is it that stress is really lowering your immune system. This might become a little bit technical, but questions are allowed later on. One more thing, our body physically does not know the difference between a physical threat and a mental threat. If I tell you now you have to go and speak live on television for 1 million people, that stress which you might get, your body gets the same reaction as if you suddenly see a lion in the jungle. So your body does not know the difference between a physical threat and a mental threat. What happens in your body when you feel stress? Here you see different emotions. You have positive emotions and you have negative emotions. Then you have active emotions and you have passive emotions. If you are angry, it's negative and you are actively angry. If you are sad, then it's negative, but you're not doing something actively, you're just sitting and being sad. If you have a positive emotion and active, like you are excited, your heart rate goes up to 160 beats per minute. However, if you are angry, your heartbeat also goes up to 160 beats a minute. So it's the same heart rate, but the difference is if you have a positive emotion, your heart rate is nice and constant. But on the negative side, it's all over the place. It's not nice and constant. The coherence is less. So what does the research show? If you are stressed, not only your heartbeat, but your breathing, your heart rate and your blood pressure is all over the place. It is not in sync. Why is it? If you have a day, let's say you have 2 days at work, okay? One day you go to work, you do your work and you come home and you are full of energy. The other day, you have a fight with your wife or with your husband and you go to office and you have the same work, but you are drained out. That's because your body is in the stress because of your fight with your spouse, and all these, your body is not in sync, and it costs a lot of energy for your body to manage your breathing, your heart rate, and your blood rhythm. That's why stress wears you out, and that's why your immune system is affected negatively because of stress. Imagine driving a car and pressing the accelerator and the brake at the same time. That's what's happening with stress. It costs a lot of energy. You'll be burning a lot of fuel. So how can we, when we are experiencing stress, how can we become calm again? What can we do? Well, normally I would ask you the question, but let me give you the answer. The simple answer is, sorry, before I go to the answer, the other drawback is when you are in the stress situation, your neocortex, which is the part of your brain which makes you think, logical thinking, is shut off. You cannot think logically anymore. So you don't make the right decisions. So that's another drawback of stress. So how can you bring this part of your brain back on again? Well, unfortunately, you cannot tell yourself, Arshad, I need to think clearly, I need to think clearly. That doesn't work because your signal is not coming to the brain because your body is all over the place. The only thing you can do is a breathing technique, a simple thing. If you do and this is what meditation is all about, mindfulness. If you do a simple breathing technique for 60 seconds, you can bring your brain back online and you can come back to this coherent state. That's why meditation or prayer, if you say your namaz, these things help you to reduce stress also and bring your body back in coherence. That's why it's very important. I want to do a small experiment with you. Can everybody see this image of the Eiffel Tower in black and white?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to put a new image on the screen, and please focus on the cross for about 5 to 10 seconds. Look at the cross. Only look at the cross. And now look at the next image. What did you see? Can anybody give me an answer? What did you see?
Core.
Anybody? Wait up. What did you see? Did you see color?
या कल एक लड़की है यूएस में उसने
Did anybody see
Black
the
and
grass
white.
green?
It become black and white.
And then again, thumbs up if you saw color. Okay, I cannot see too many strings, but I mean, I've done this experiment many times. I'm sure you saw the grass green. Okay, what happens here is, because the second picture is just black and white. The third picture was the same as the first one. Why do you see it colored? And that's how our brain works. Your brain sees the image and he has seen this color, he has seen this colored image. So he says, well, I think it's colored. But why isn't your brain showing it purple? Why is it showing green grass for a second? Because your brain knows grass is green. So even though this is a black and white picture, it is showing you green grass for a second. And why is this important? Let me explain this to you. If we look at emotions, how do they work? Yeah? You read something about COVID, yeah? Something, it triggers you, or you see something. What is your brain going to do? Your brain has to give you an image in a split second. So he's going to gather all the information. It will look at your body. Is there anything happening in your body? Is your heartbeat going up? Are you sweating? It is looking at the environment. It's going to see, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? But most importantly, it goes in your database, in your memory. Have I experienced this before? Have I seen this before? And based on your previous experience, it gives you an emotion. So why is it that if I read news about COVID and Wahid Saab reads news about COVID, we react in a different way? That is because what we have been through in our life, what is in our memory. And why is this important? Because you have to realize that your emotion is not always realistic. It might give you fear, it might give you anxiety, but that doesn't mean it is actually dangerous. If I'm in the office and my manager shouts at me, my brain is going to go back in my database and remember the moments when my father was angry at me and shouted at me, and I will get the same emotions. A person which did not have that experience in his life will get a different emotion. So why am I saying this? Because I think it's important that you learn to deal with your emotions and your stress by realizing that they are not always the truth. And I always give the example of an elephant. If you put an elephant, a baby elephant, you put him on a chain on a small tree, he cannot escape, he's not strong enough. When he grows up, he still thinks, he believes in his mind that he cannot break the chain. The same thing happens with emotions. When something happens in your subconscious, it gives you an emotion and you get scared or anxiety, but that doesn't mean it's really dangerous. You can easily escape those emotions. I'm going to skip this one. The last one, and then I want to go to some tips. The latest research, which is called epigenetics, and this is very interesting, and I recommend you read this book, The Biology of Belief. It says that with your thoughts and with your beliefs, you can impact your DNA. You can switch certain things in your DNA off and on. And why am I saying this? Because my key message is that with your beliefs and with your mind, you can boost your immune system. So the mind is very important to cope with stress and anxiety and uncertainty coming out of the COVID situation, all the social impact which there is. So I would really, my advice always to not only focus on the physical part of health, but also on the mental part of it. Some tips to wrap it up. So my first tip would be is, if you look at the news, all the things, the news coming up about COVID, don't focus on the headlines, but focus on the trend lines. For example, if you read this news here, it says 5-year-old first child deaths of COVID-19. It can give you the reaction, oh, it's dangerous, my child can die from COVID. but look at the trend lines. What are the total number of children which are casualties of COVID? So be aware that the emotion you get when you read this news is not the reality. Secondly, all the problems which we discussed about domestic abuse, unemployment, debts, all these things, a lot of these things you cannot influence yourself. And you can worry about them, and that will make you more stressed, but that will negatively impact your immune system even more. So try to focus always on things which you can influence, which you can directly influence. The other things are your circle of concern. You can be concerned about it, but don't get stressed about it because you cannot change it anyway. Look at, whenever you get something which makes you stressful, think, can I control this? Can I influence this? No, then leave it. The third tip I would like to give you is that you need to realize that your thoughts and your emotions, that you are not your emotions and your thoughts. So try to observe them and try to think, is this really happening or is it just an emotion because of my programming? How can you do that? Like I said, every day try to build in, well, if you pray 5 times a day, that's perfect. You have me time. Build in enough moments in your day to have really me time, to reflect and think, meditate or pray, because this will help you to strengthen your mental being and cope with stressful situations. Still exercise. Yes, focusing on your mental, but exercise, the research shows also that if you exercise, it's like an antidepressant. If you exercise, certain hormones are released in your body, which are actually as strong as antidepressants. They have done a research on this. They took two groups which were coping with stress. They were actually coping with the depression. One group, they gave antidepressants. The other group, they gave it an exercise schedule. And the third group, they gave both. After 1 month, they found out that all three the groups had the effect was the same. So the people who were only exercising, it had benefited them as much as the people with taking antidepressants. Then when they stopped the antidepressants and the exercise, the people who had exercised, their results were continued and were long-term. So exercise is a natural way of coping with stress and anxiety. So try to go for a walk outside, because luckily we are not like in Pakistan, there is also a curfew after 5. We can still go outside. Try to go for a walk and exercise. The last one is, we talked about relationships and how important it is to have your relationships. When you're at home in the situation with your children or with your spouse, just hug each other for 20 seconds. Even that shows scientifically that releases hormones in your body which help you to cope with stress and anxiety. So hug each other, spend time with each other, and if you are not possible to meet your elder, be in touch with them on Skype, on Zoom. Stay in touch with the elder people in society, because as we said, relationships is the most important time to deal with social isolation and to stay mentally fit, and with that to boost your immune system and get through this COVID crisis. Finally, I want to conclude it with my last slide, and because the question is always, what's going to happen, and what is going to happen after COVID-19? I personally think, if you look at it, the last few years we have had many crises. We have had the financial crisis. Now we have a health crisis. I think that the world is now in a special moment, that we are in transition towards a more beautiful world, which is the butterfly. And if you look in nature, when the caterpillar becomes the butterfly, in that phase, in the cocoon, everything is liquid. And this is amazing. Everything is liquid. It is total chaos. It's like a huge crisis. I believe now we are living in an era of a lot of crisis and chaos, but ultimately something beautiful is going to come out of it, and a more beautiful society. So my message is, we need to learn to deal with chaos and uncertainty by focusing on our mental health and relationships, and then hopefully we will slowly transform into a beautiful butterfly with a brighter future for our children. And that concludes my presentation. I hope you found it interesting and I didn't go too fast. So I'd like to, let's have maybe a dialogue on it, or any questions you have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shamsi Saab. Excellent. Very, very informative and very optimistic and brilliant. Lots of new insights. And I think it was just as I said, was brilliant. I think a couple of points you have made are excellent, and tips are also very good. But see the point you made about touching and hugging and feeling each other, how important that is, and the kind of emotions it triggers. The baby's dying. It was a tragic but wonderful experience. And if we are deprived of that very basic need for a long time, what can happen, what impacts? And I think your tips are very valuable in thinking about dealing with them. And also your point about that your emotions are not always telling you the truth, because that truth is always relative, it's not absolute, and it's relative to the context of your database.
Agreed.
So
Yeah.
because ultimately every emotion is processed in that particular context, which you mentioned as database, and that context decides then how you react. And if the context is different, the reaction will be different, and the behavior will be different. So I think these are excellent points, and we'll take your advice to read the book, The Biology of Beliefs. I think before we take questions, I would request Naeem Saab to take us through his piece. And after that, we will have a questions and answer session. Thank you very much, Shamsi Saab. Very enlightening.
Most welcome. I will mute myself.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if you can change the screen, then Naeem Saab can come on.
I have stopped my sharing, so he should be able to share his screen now.
Yeah. Naeem Saab. Naeem Saab, can you please?
Yes, I'm coming, sir.
Share? Yeah. Now I have unmuted you. You can also unmute you.
Am I muted, sir? Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay. I have to share my screen.
Yeah, please.
And can you see my screen, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for interesting speech and very valuable thoughts. My subject is also related to the present crisis. We are all in quarantine. And I'm going to talk about some fragile phenomena in our society, and the impact of the present time on our society and political impact. Everything of value is defenseless. This is a sentence of a Dutch poet, Lucebert. Alles van waarde is weerloos. It is in Dutch. I've translated in English. So I'm going to talk about the fragility of two important sections of society. These are public governance and corporate governance. Actually, my presentation is in Dutch because I thought Dutch was the language of our meeting. But nevertheless, I'll explain if there are Dutch words we're not familiar with you. The second section of every society is corporate sector. So I'm going to talk about some aspects of public governance and some important consequences for corporate governance, the businesses. And I will talk about some chances this crisis also gives us. And thereafter, we can go to the questions and dialogue, etc. Public sector is under pressure, and also this phenomenon is global, because I've chosen 4 aspects of public governance which occur. The public governance is under pressure. First of all, the geopolitical consequences, and we see that the traditionally powerful countries are losing their influence. Trump versus Xi, PM of China or President of the United States, we see that there are many disputes about them. The present crisis is also compared with another one at the beginning of last century, 1918, the Spanish flu. Actually, Spanish flu is the time of Spanish flu. There were no the traveling in the globe. There were no flights, so the spread of the pandemic was a very different level compared with the present times, because we can fly, etc. The number of people which were died with Spanish flu were 20 to 100 million people died of Spanish flu. In the Netherlands, there were 60,000 casualties of Spanish flu. We still don't know what caused the Spanish flu. Was it the animals, or which country started the Spanish flu? We just don't know. Now we have President of the United States, which calls COVID a Chinese virus, which is very, very pity. But let's go back to the geopolitical consequences. Europe is now discussing about, should we bring back our production because of low cost. Last 20-30 years, a very big part of production is brought to China or Bangladesh or other countries with low cost. And now we have some problems in Europe because very important like masks or ventilators, there is very big short of these equipment. So you can expect that, I think that the globalization, we are now experiencing the dark side of globalization, because there's the short of the basic need equipment is causing very much stress with politicians. So European Union is now talking about to bring back the production of important equipment. So the question is, are we going to an era of deglobalization? So every region is going to produce their own equipment. there are now some think tanks in the European Union who are talking about this issue. The difference between the rich world and poor world is also very visible in this crisis. We saw 2 weeks ago PM of Pakistan doing an appeal to IMF to reduce the burden of financial burden on developing countries. So IMF had just not reacted to this appeal, but you can expect that there are very help is needed for a poor country to make bearable their crisis. Other aspect is the European solidarity is also under pressure because their economic situation in South Europe is different, very different of the economic situation of West Europe or North Europe. But we have same currency, so, but the political integration is not a fact. It is only economic integration. So the countries in South Europe have their own discipline of budgeting, public budgeting. And their discipline is, the reason is maybe their culture or their history, I don't know, but fact is that their budget discipline is a very big cause of their economic problems. So we saw last 3 weeks ago, there were meetings of all financial ministers of financial of European Union. Our PM Rutte and Hoekstra, Minister of Finance, were against paying to the countries in South Europe. Their idea was to give out some euro bonds to bring money to the national economies, but our PM and Prime Minister Hoekstra were against it. There was very much depression in Spain, Italy, and Portugal to this stance of our PM. So he did not make himself popular in South Europe. But the fact is that solidarity in Europe is also under pressure. This crisis also brings some dilemmas, dilemma about health and economics. And the dilemmas are bigger in poor countries. You can think of a day wager, which only can eat in the evening if he works at a day. So you can see the problem of are people going to die because of COVID, or are people going to die because of hunger? This dilemma is in rich countries a little different, but in poor countries, this is a very, very big issue to, people are talking about intelligent lockdown. So the responsibility of people, you have self to decide, I'm going to out of where public gathering is allowed or not. Another subject is democratic checks and balances are under pressure. And which means that a very important checks and balances of a democracy is the parliament. The parliament controls the government, and our Dutch parliament cannot meet as they always do because of COVID. Because of social distancing, the parliament cannot meet as the way they normally do. So the democratic control of the government is also under pressure. Parliament has the right to ask every minister and prime minister to explain their decisions, to explain their policy making. But at the moment, it is very difficult for the parliament to do their job. And this problem is not only national level, but also at municipality level, province level. So democratic control is in pressure at all government levels. And there are also tensions between national level and some lower level of government. We see an example that there are many tensions between federal government of Pakistan and the Sindh provincial governments. There are many tensions between these levels because Sindh government doesn't follow the instructions, doesn't want to follow instructions from the federal government. Then some aspects of corporate governance. What is the impact of COVID for the businesses? The biggest thing it caused is abrupt the fallout of the demand. That is the biggest issue for the companies. And the fallout of demand is unique. There have never been a so big fallout of demand. So government has to help financially the businesses. Dutch government has spent 20 miljard euros for spent to help the Dutch companies. Oh, excuse me. Which brings also moral dilemmas, because some companies don't really need financial help, but Dutch government has chosen to give the financial help without objective criteria, because there was no time to set criteria and to check the criteria. So some Dutch businesses are applying for financial help, but you can question if they need it. A big company, Booking.com, Dutch company, who made 500 million euros profit last year, has also applied for financial help. So some parliamentary member are asking, should we help companies which are very rich and financially healthy? But you cannot deny them, you cannot forbid them to apply for financial help, because there are no hard criteria for help. Now we have a very big discussion about financial help for KLM. Yesterday it came out in news that if KLM will not get help, more help from Dutch government, they maybe go bankrupt within 2 months, 1 or 2 months. So KLM is a very important company in Dutch economy, and there are other companies who relate to KLM, so there are very much independence between other companies. In this time of lockdown, the time of remote working also brings some control problems for management also. Because if someone is working at home, how do you know if the person is working at home, or is he going to do different things? Or is he playing or sporting or whatever? So the management have the challenge to how to measure the performance of someone who is working at home. So you have the management need some other mechanisms to control the performance of their employees who are working at home or otherwise remote working. So you can expect that the measurement of performance, the use of output controls should be used more and more, because you cannot control someone what he or she is doing. You can only see if something is done which was agreed to do. So output measurement will be more important in the future. It is also used at the moment, but I think it's getting to more important. Other aspect of remote working is teaming and the social aspect. If you don't see your colleagues, or you have new colleagues, you only know your new colleagues only from the screen, there are it gives some tensions. I'm at the moment doing a project for a big insurance company, and I'm involved in the project in which our teaming, more than half of the team I've never met, only via screen. So it gives some challenges for social aspects within teams. Other aspect is that private life and business life is very difficult to separate. You work at home, but at 12 o'clock you have to bring your children at school, or you have to pick up at school. It all goes together. So a separation of private life or business life is becoming difficult and difficult. The question is if it is worse or not. You can think different about this phenomenon. The existing business models of companies are also under pressure. I'm involved in two universities, Nijrode and the Hague School. We must continue our lectures online. So all buildings are empty at the moment. You can expect maybe in the future, does a university need a big building if the students are at the most of the time at home? So you can expect that in the nearby, if the trend of remote learning goes on, that universities and other education institutions need smaller buildings. Why do you to cut the cost? The horeca sector, the restaurants, hotels, and cafes, have the problem of the social distancing, so they cannot function at the moment as normal. The Dutch government decided last week to reopen restaurants, cafes with a maximum of 30 people. The question is it going to help the businesses in this sector? I think it will be very difficult, because 30 people, the turnover you get will not enough to meet your cost. Another big aspect of corporate governance is the lessons we should learn from the last crisis in 2008. There are some parallels between this crisis and the crisis of 2008, and one of the biggest is the control of institutions like the Central Bank of Holland, the Nederlandse Bank, who controls the financial sector, the regulation was focused on individual companies and banks and insurance companies, but the regulation was not focused on financial system as a whole. This was a big problem, and one of the biggest lesson is the regulators have also to focus on financial system as a whole, and not only the financially health of an individual bank or financial company. If you see the health sector, the regulation, the current regulation of the health sector is also focused on individual hospital, and there is no eye for the health sector as a whole. So it is, in fact, it is a repetition of faults, you can say. Another lesson from 2008, which we have to implement in our health sector, is now to have redundancy. The banks are obliged to have extra capital to be resilient for bad times. In the same time, our hospitals should have extra capacity, extra beds, extra equipment, which is maybe never needed in normal times, but you have to have extra capacity. So I expect that the regulators of health sector will demand from the hospitals to have extra capacity, which is very expensive to have. Maybe it is never need in normal times, but you have to have extra equipment like ventilators, masks, and other saving equipment. Then some chances which the corona crisis gives us. The crisis also has also speed up some changes which were already in place, like the online activities of the big banks. We see ABN AMRO, ING have speed up their online activities, and they are closing their physical offices. It is a development which already existed before the crisis, but it has been speed up because of crisis. The ING office in my area where I live in The Hague is also closed, and I received a letter from ING last day that the reason is that the visitors at the physical office are so there are no visitors, so everyone is doing their business online. E-health is also a development which has speed up because of crisis. E-health is a new development in the health sector, so that a doctor can help a patient online via video connection. There are several Dutch hospitals which are experimenting with e-health, like UMC Utrecht and UMC and also Haga Ziekenhuis. They are experimenting with e-health, so that physical presence of patient in the hospital is not needed. Remote learning and working has also speeded up. At the University of The Hague, we are talking now, I think, 10 years about remote learning, and we should use it. But we never did it actually. Now in March, we were in 2 weeks all lectures and all examinations were online in 2 weeks' time, where we did 10 years to talk about it. In 2 weeks, we realized it. So you see, crisis is also a blessing in disguise sometimes. That's it for now, sir. Let's go to the questions and dialogue, if you have, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Naeem Saab. Again, very informative and very insightful. And if I just take 2-3 highlights before we go into questions, I think some very interesting points and food for thought that we have. The public sector is under pressure, the geopolitical implications and consequences of everything. And I think the democratic checks and balances in danger. That is also very, very, very good point. Bringing back the production, which is going to be very challenging, almost impossible, but let's wait, question answer session. And I think the dark side of globalization, also a very interesting point. And I think also that the economic issues and problems are different country by country. European Union has different problems that Asia, APAC has, for example. So there will be completely different ways of, which means a lot of countries or regions can go introvert again in isolation to deal with their, the moral dilemma is very big, whether it's a moral dilemma or something else. But you gave examples of Booking.com and KLM. And I think the danger there is that rich becoming richer, saved again, and poorer getting not saved at all. So I think it's some very interesting also about remote working and current business models. So I would invite now our participants, all the attendees. Thank you very much for listening so patiently, peacefully. And who wants to go first with any question to both of our panelists? We have also Dr. Ishtiaq Ahmed. Dr. Saab, welcome. Thanks for being there. And Dr. Saab was our keynote speaker, actually the only speaker at the last event. And I saw him, he's also online. So if there are any questions which he might address, we'll be most delighted to put them to him as well. So go ahead, ask questions.
Yeah, I've just asked you all, because all are mute at the moment. Please turn on unmute button and then you can ask your questions, please.
Yeah, may I ask a question?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Well, let me begin by thanking.
Sir, your voice is not clear, sir.
It's not clear. Now, how does one make it clearer?
We can't hear you.
You have to unmute, you know.
Ishaq Sahab, we cannot hear you at all.
Okay.
Oh, अब आवाज आ रही है उनकी.
आ रही है?
Yeah,
अब आ रही है.
No, it's okay.
अच्छा.
Yes, now we can hear him, yeah.
अच्छा.
आवाज फिर खत्म हो गई.
No.
Okay, sir.
Can't hear.
Can we delay your question?
Yes. Yes.
Someone asks you. Meanwhile, you can adjust your microphone, please.
Okay. Yeah, I think fine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else, please?
Yeah, can I ask something or can I say something?
Yeah, please. You can even give your own opinion on certain thing, but not too much long. And you can also ask.
Yeah, my name is Shiraz. I'm a journalist. And I'm volunteer and well-wisher and supporter of this great work that you are doing at this platform. Indeed, it's incredible. Its consistency and its seriousness and its professional depth is really remarkable. And I really admire the way you took the decision to do this online. It's in our psychology, in our work culture and activism culture, it must have been a difficult decision. But you went for it and admitted our need of being connected with each other, one, and being at the same wavelength regarding the need to understand and awareness. And congratulations for your team.
Thank you.
And thank you for this great two great, very good, very informative presentations. And more or less, all of us, it's the same things that we are feeling. I will add one thing about the dark side of the globalization. Sometimes I also feel that we are seeing the bright side of the globalization. And it is amazing. When I see the statistics about the death in Spanish flu, so what was actually the difference? Why 2,200 million died? And why this time, despite the thickness and density of the population, the number is much less? I think we have to give the credit to this immense presence of the possibility of human connectivity with each other, which saved millions of lives this time. That we could immediately, in days and weeks, everybody from across the world, in the remote village of Africa and America and Asia, everywhere, we were all at the same level of information, more or less, about this virus and its defense mechanisms, of what could be done. So there was a very strong side of the connectivity. The globalization is clearly globalization. You know, I could, being in Belgium, I could immediately talk to my siblings, different countries of the world. I could talk to my friends. I could talk to my activist fellows and all this. So there is something that I'm positively amazed. Secondly, I'm positively amazed of the economies and the governments which took humanist decisions in favor of the humanity. It is not anymore a very ruthless capitalism. You know, it is not. We cannot say this happened like this. Secondly, we can see the social maturity of the people. There are different grades, different levels at in different countries, but there are we see the social the attitudes and trust of social responsibility towards each other. One thing missing was the impact on the environment. We must say that this corona lockdown has impacted very positively on many. Now, from standing in the Sialkot, I can see Himalayas. Now there are information that some repair has been done naturally in the environment, and there are so many things. So I would like to, for the speakers to add this as well, the positive sides of globalization, and secondly, the desire, this mass psychology of deprivation. Yes, this is a globalization, economy, and joblessness and corporations dying. But what are the difference between need and the desire? Is this economy, global corporate economy, is driven by actual need or desire or consumerism or consumption? And then what is the difference? What is the what is the connection of relation? What is relationship, companionship, and being together? Are we confusing all this? The true relationship, I think after a long time, in this stressful life, I got some time to really be with my wife and with my child, and I could really connect with my relatives that I never talk. So what is relationship and what is companionship? What is being together and what is just work relation? So this also is something that we need to discuss. Thank you.
Can we hear Dr. Saab now?
Adi, I think I can hear. You know, I changed the headphones. So first of all, I didn't get a chance to hear the last gentleman who had some questions. So for that, I apologize. But I'll come directly to the two main speakers. And to both of them, my heartiest congratulations for excellent presentations.
Thank you, sir.
I'll focus basically on the topic, which was how the coronavirus would impact on the diaspora Pakistani communities. And so I will reduce everything to one or two questions. To Shamsi Saab, the question is, first of all, I was delighted to hear you speak. Very authoritative, very humane, very touching. But there is a certain danger in the way you were saying that hugging and touching is so important. I think you meant the immediate family, those who live together, because, and then, for example, you said one should pray and do it 5 times a day. This is open invitation to all the ulama to start violating the law even in Europe. I don't think you meant that.
No, no.
So since I'm a political scientist, I have to look at the implications of your advice. But thank you very much. Now with that clarity, I'm very, very pleased with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you
For
very
a
much.
long time, I've had a chance to talk once again, to listen once again to Naeem Arif Saab. The first time I met, I was so pleased to meet such an educated Pakistani gentleman. So good in his profession and yet so deeply cultured about poetry and learning and so on. And to you, I thought that this lecture did not focus on the implications for overseas Pakistanis in the diaspora. I think you need to come to that topic somehow, or at least respond. For example, how will this affect migration? You know, there are many Pakistanis who probably are still waiting for their applications for political asylum. Do you think there is going to be a general attitude towards rejecting everyone? This might be an opportunity to get rid of people they don't want. What about Pakistani students who might want to come and study in Europe? Do you think they would be having difficulties because of these changes that you are envisaging would take place? So I thought the overall framework you gave is excellent to get the, to get the feel of how government will react, how big business will react, and its implications for those who work. But I was thinking of the diaspora, Pakistanis, since we are talking about them, but in general, if you want to talk. Thank you very much. These were my two main comments.
Thank you, sir.
Ji, Naeem Saab.
I think that
Sir, if everybody allows, you can also speak in Urdu, because I understand that you have been delivering your lectures in Dutch language, so it is quite difficult to.
So,
what do you think?
English, Urdu.
You can in Urdu if everybody allows.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing the messages from people, the participants. They can, they would like to hear.
Oh, no issue. I'm seeing it. I have no issue. No issues with Urdu. I see it.
Ja, ja.
Maar waarom niet in het Nederlands dan?
Alleen,
ja, sorry hoor, maar...
Alleen Hester Ja.
Is Hester de enige die Nederlands
Ja,
spreekt?
enige.
Nou ja, dan in het Urdu. Oké.
Ja, dankjewel, Hester.
Democratie is niet altijd goed, hè, Hester.
Minoriteiten.
देखिए भाई साहब ने जो बात की है, मेरा ख्याल है कि आने वाले वक्त में माइग्रेशन के बारे में जो थॉट्स हैं वो नेगेटिव होंगे, क्योंकि मुझे ये लग रहा है कि सभी सोसाइटीज जो हैं वो इस वक्त अपने आप में है और अपना इंटरेस्ट पहले वाली बात हो रही है। और मेरा ये ख्याल है कि सोशल ग्लोबल ट्रैवलिंग और कहीं और जाकर स्टडी करना या किसी और सोसाइटी में थोड़ी देर के लिए जाकर रहना, मेरा ख्याल है ये थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा आने वाले दिनों।
हाँ, ठीक ठीक, थैंक यू।
It is also under pressure, I think.
ठीक है, that's what I wanted to hear. हाँ, ठीक है, thank you.
अभी आप देखें कि जो रेफ्यूजीज आते हैं यूरोप में, ग्रीस में या इटली में, उनको जब वो पहुंचते हैं तो पिछले 2 माह से उनको क्वारंटीन में डाल दिया जाता है, और वहां पे जो सूरत हाल है इस वक्त बहुत ही खराब है। जी
ठीक है, my questions are answered. आरिफ साहब, आमिर राना साहब, प्लीज आगे बाकी लोगों का।
उसामा, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं, प्लीज?
I was just raising my hand, sorry.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Can I just ask one question to maybe some
please.
Or because it's more a social issue. Why we tend to, or all these kinds of situations tend to have much more severe, violent impact on women? Why is that? In every society, in some societies more, in others less. I mean, if you look at virus, or if you this COVID-19, or before that we had earthquake in Pakistan, somehow one big segment of the population blames women because women's particular way of dressing or particular behavior was the main reason for the earthquake or the virus. And the people who don't say that, don't believe in that, they beat them at home.
Yeah.
And Shamsi Saab made that point, and I was reading an article yesterday that we have 60%, and that was European statistics, 60% increase in domestic violence. Not domestic violence, but the phone calls about domestic violence. 60%. And if you see that it increased in big numbers in South Africa, but the minute they banned the alcohol, it went down very dramatically as well. So why is this that either it's women's fault, whether that there is an earthquake, and if it's not their fault, they are still beaten at home?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think, but that's from a health perspective, I think more men are dying from COVID-19 than women. So I think maybe nature, or whatever you want to call it, realizes that this world is too masculine.
Yeah.
We need, it has gone out of balance. If you look in anything, in governments, in corporate governance, in companies, in households, the male competences are dominant. And I think the new leadership we need in this world has to be more feminine. That doesn't mean we need more female leaders, but also men need to embrace their feminine side. So I think the world is just too masculine, and that goes way back how we bring up our sons and daughters. So this, I think, the thing about COVID, it also puts a magnifying glass on the issues which we already have as a society. And so I hope that wherever we put the magnifying glass and we see these big things which were already actually a problem pre-COVID, that it will get extra attention in the policy, in the agenda of the policymakers.
Thank you. That's just one short sentence. I mean, there is a lot of now evidence in hard numbers that the countries which are managed by women and the multinational companies which are managed by women are coping with the crisis in a much better way than those which are managed by men.
Look at the New Zealand. I think they are one of the first countries now which have put human well-being as important or maybe more important than GDP. Because they realize financial wealth is not making people happier. And their leader is a woman, you know. So, I mean,
there are studies in corporate that companies with a mix of managing directors, this male and female, the companies with a mixed board are performing much better in the long run than companies only with male board of directors. So some feminine characteristics are very important in the boards.
Well said. I agree, Naeem. I agree. So the question is, what can we do at home to change this? That's how do we treat our wives? How do we treat our daughters and our sons equally? That's where it starts.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah, I think Saima Hayat wants to ask some question or want to add something. Saima, can you unmute yourself, please? Hello, Saima. Okay.
Amit.
Yeah, Amir, please.
Now, first of all, I would like to thank everybody for arranging this and the speaker mostly. It's a nice talk and nice perspectives. But one thing which I am missing, and I think it is very important in the present context, that in every state, there is an effort to build a kind of app to control the people, app to trace the people, who has tested or not tested, or who is got corona or not, and it is very much intervening into privacy of the people, and also about the future of not about our privacy, but also the ways of governance. Naeem has talked about governance, but this is also a very important part of governance, how the huge data which these governments are collecting. They say that they will use this only for these purposes, but who knows? I mean, what ways? I mean, we all know that what happened after 9/11 and the kind of security management has taken in the last 20 years as a result of that, and those measurements are still working there, although the threat is no more there. So the same thing is now here, that there is huge data which is being collected, and what they are going to do. I mean, they say that we are going to, use only for this purpose, but who knows what would happen with that data, and what kind of, intervention of governments will happen in the future in our daily lives, our not only, I mean, it is not governance. You mean, I don't mean only governance with the governments, but also the corporates, the Facebook and all those companies. And that is something we have to think about that.
Yeah, well, if I can, I think this topic you just addressed, we could keep a whole separate webinar on this. It's a very valid point. I mean, I think the definition of freedom and democracy is also going to be redefined. Look at countries like Singapore, the way they are controlling the COVID there. I think in Holland, we would never accept it. The way you are tracked and traced. So I think also a redefinition of freedom and democracy is on the agenda. And I'm also very anxious to see where that is going. And Naeem Saak very excellently explained all the dilemmas we have. And one dilemma is also between health and freedom.
Right.
Health and democracy. So I mean, are they going to force you to take a vaccine? If you don't take the vaccine, are you still allowed to fly home to Pakistan or not? You know, these are all questions which are coming to my mind, and it's an important topic to talk about. But I don't think we have the answer here. But a good question.
We saw also that Dutch government wants to build an app, and they have now cooled down their plans because of debate in the society about data use. So it's a very important aspect of this same subject. Thank you for.
I was just yesterday I was just reading that Pakistani government has given certain millions to ISI to for the same purpose, and
to build an app.
May I say
yes.
something? May I say something?
Yes,
please.
May I say something?
Yes,
I think if ISI has been given 7 million, it is too little to do much harm. I think they need much more. I don't think we should get into another doomsday scenario. I mean, there will always be a question of how much of freedom and how much the ruling elites would like to control us. You can't simply come to this extreme conclusion one way or the other. Shamsi Saab believed that it will create a new world order where a lot of happiness is possible. I would like to probe that actually, because if somebody wants to waste time on tracing my private life, they are welcome to do it. I mean, I don't contribute to the harm of the society, and if they have so much resources to follow each and every individual, they are wasting their time. I don't think that is going to happen. But under all circumstances, and let me underline this, throughout history, the struggle of the people is for democracy and freedom and for rights, and the states try to make use of the opportunities. So we can't conclusively say that this is going to lead to some totalitarianism and so on. It might not. I think both scenarios are very possible. Yeah. I tend to agree more with Shamsi Saab. I think this has proven the end of what Naeem Saab was saying was the dark side of globalization. It will be discussed again, it will be critiqued, and I think a balance will be found. That's what democracy is all about. It is negotiated freedom. There is no absolute freedom, and there is no absolute equality. It's always a struggle. And so we should be ready for that. That's all.
Oh, can I say something? I mean, as I said in the introduction, that this crisis has exposed many contradictions, and I use the word contradictions because Dr. Saab is absolutely right. There is no extreme right or extreme wrong. But and also as Shamsi Saab pointed out, this is a very long discussion and debate because we are now going actually into the political implications of this crisis. And every crisis, I mean, the right-wing extremists, they try to fully exploit it. Exactly. Left tend to be too much gentlemen. They try to exploit it, but they can't because they have bigger conscience. And if you look at now, whether it's multinationals, whether the governments which have dictatorial tendencies, they are all using it. And we saw that even before coronavirus crisis, the entire shift of political spectrum was towards the right. And now this entire situation plays into the hands of the right wing, and they are using it to be more protectionist, to be anti-immigration, and to be anti many things. You see examples in countries like, I mean, Singapore, very good example, but Singapore was always like a nanny state. They always believe in that you take care of good kids and punish the bad kids. That was their kind of overall philosophy. But if you look at Poland, which is member of European Union, I mean, the way they have changed the laws, they're going around the parliament. And so it will, as Dr. Saab said, it's a struggle, it's a contradiction between those who want total control and between those who want to have some freedom. And that's the fight between two of them, and we are on the side of the freedom, obviously.
That's right.
how can we negotiate and fight and get out of this crisis in a way that our old freedoms are not compromised. Mugai Sahib is also right that lots of freedoms which were taken away on the pretext of something were never given back, or given back very little. So I think the scholars in the society are very well aware of it, and they are having a good discussion, good debate in the society.
Sir, we have request from please बोलिए.
हाँ.
Sorry, आपका नाम नहीं आ रहा वहाँ पर.
रईस अख्तर.
Yeah, Rais.
So my friends, I'm extremely delighted, and it's a great honor for me to participate on such wonderful meeting.
Rais bhai, can you please introduce yourself a little?
My name is Rais Akhtar. I'm living here in Frankfurt, Germany. Old guy, old friend of Wahid, and some. We got here sometimes OPF organization. Simultaneously, there was one OPP in Berlin. I'm talking about late 70s and 80s. So I'm extremely delighted to have seen such a wonderful gathering and so much well-educated and informed Pakistani young men. It's a very positive psychological development for me. Now I'll come back to Mr. Shamsi and Mr. Naeem. Very informative and very good lectures. Thank you. I will mention something which is I assume I have missed it, and that's the character of COVID-19 in Europe from the point of view that the informations we got would be delivered from some official ways are full of contradictions, and some psychological effects had been produced to manage a total controlled development of the credit, or I will say the money rivers have been flown for some purpose, which is not bad, it's good. But if I compare, you have compared the influenza in Spain at that time. It was a very, very dangerous situation at that time. But simultaneously to COVID-19, there was in Europe, we are living in Europe, there is something more, something like 2018 alone in Germany, there were more than 25,000 people died because of influenza, what we hear the German say, grippe. And more than 30,000 people died in road accidents. It was that the people are dying always in some manner. It was not psychologically as dangerous as COVID-19 because it was the quantity of persons dying at one day. Like in Italy or Spain, that's about 1,000 people at a day. And it is a shock. In USA, there were 2,000. And that was a shock. And that said that when COVID-19 is dangerous. Nobody get in touch with us, and it produced isolation at a very high level. I mean, I don't want to criticize, to misunderstand that. No, I don't want to criticize the way they have done, because it's, of course, a very dangerous virus. Could have done everything. But what the point is that behind this psychological, I would say, terrorism, they have managed to pin up again these neoliberal politics. The question arises, in Germany alone, they have more than 1 billion euro have spent to fight the COVID-19. But next year, they are going to pay back these credits, and they have to make some new laws. And they will manage it that they have created a situation in Germany that most of the democratic rights have been deprived. On it would have some consequence in next 2 years. And that's why it is, I think, also used to make an atmosphere for the political revival, what is at present because of what you say, the competence of some northern European countries like Netherlands, Germany, Sweden, and the problems are prevailing in South countries, with Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece. I think it's this aspect, but I'm sorry that some words from German language is coming out. And have, okay, then one point to Mr. Naeem Arif Saab, the migration and globalization. I think there is some basic fault. सुन रहे हैं मुझे?
Yeah.
Okay.
सर क्वेश्चन अपना प्लीज जल्दी से फ्रेम कीजिएगा।
हाँ नहीं, क्वेश्चन यही था, मतलब ये कि जो इनका ताल्लुक जो है माइग्रेशन और ग्लोबलाइजेशन का, अगर उसकी कुछ थोड़ी सी और वजाहत हो जाती।
या प्लीज नेम साहब
जी। उर्दू में?
हाँ उर्दू में
उर्दू में देखिए, मेरे ख्याल में माइग्रेशन एक कॉन्सिक्वेंस है ग्लोबलाइजेशन की, और ग्लोबलाइजेशन जो शुरू हुई 80s के शुरू में, और सबसे बड़ा जो इसके मोटिव्स थे ग्लोबलाइजेशन के, वो इकोनॉमिक थे, और कि कंपनीज अपनी प्रोडक्शन कॉस्ट को लो कैसे कर सकती हैं, और जहाँ पे लेबर सस्ती है वहाँ पे प्रोडक्शन को ले जाओ और अपने कॉस्ट को कट करो। जो सबसे पहले जो वजूहात थी वो यही थी, इकोनॉमिक्स। बाद में फिर पॉलिटिकल और जब आईटी और इंटरनेट का आना और ग्लोबल विलेज का जो तस्वुर है वो बाद में आया, लेकिन सबसे पहले जो था वो इकोनॉमिक्स मोटिव्स थे। और माइग्रेशन जो है ये तो इतनी पुरानी है कि जितना पुराना इंसान खुद है। माइग्रेशन हमेशा रही है, और ये सिर्फ ये है कि उसकी शक्ल बदल चुकी है। अब जब से फ्लाइट्स आ गई हैं और जहाज से सफर होना शुरू हो गया है, مائگریشن ایک نئے دور میں آ گئی ہے, لیکن اس سے پہلے بھی مائگریشن ہمیشہ رہی ہے. قدیم جو تاریخ دیکھ لیں آپ, اس کا مطالعہ کریں آپ, migration was always a fact. And migration was also ہمیشہ سے اس کے پیچھے بزنس کا ہاتھ رہا ہے. دیکھیں آپ, اسلام انڈونیشیا کیسے پہنچا, وہ سب بزنس کی وجہ سے. وہ شپس آتے تھے مال لے کر, اور وہاں ایسے اسلام پہنچا انڈونیشیا میں. لہٰذا کلچرل اور مائگریشن اور گلوبلیشن کا آپس میں بہت بڑا گہرا رشتہ ہے میرے خیال میں. جی
جی
ایک جملہ, مطلب یہ گلوبلائزیشن جو ہے, یہ اس کے پیچھے ایک خاص سوچ تھی. یہ لیٹ 90s میں جو ہے یونائٹڈ اسٹیٹس میں جو رپورٹ ٹو دا پریزیڈنٹ پیش کی گئی, جس میں تصور یہ تھا کہ جو غریب ملک جو ہیں وہاں پر یورپین, میں لفظ استعمال کروں گا, انڈسٹریل کنٹریز کی جو انڈسٹری ہے اس کو غریب ملکوں میں انسٹال کیا جائے, تاکہ لو ویجز پر جو ہے وہ اپنی اشیاء وہاں پر تیار کر سکے. یہ اس کا ایک بیسک کنسیپٹ تھا,
کاسٹ کٹنگ.
اور یہ گلوبل.
رئیس بھائی جسٹ یہ والی ڈسکشن کو بھی ہم آگے نہیں بڑھاتے, تو ابھی سوال لے لیں. کیا بلوچ کا کوشچن ہے, تو ان کا سوال لے لیں پلیز.
ہاں جی,
ہاں نہیں ٹھیک ہے, وہ جواب دے دیا. بہت شکریہ.
کیا بلوچ, آپ اپنا مائک آن کیجیے اور سوال کیجیے پلیز.
جی عامر صاحب, تھینک یو ویری مچ. میں کیا بلوچ, بلوچستان سے میرا تعلق ہے. اس گروپ سے گزشتہ کچھ سالوں سے ہوں. میرا سوال شمسی صاحب سے ہے کہ ہم یہاں ہیں, یورپ میں رہتے ہیں, یہاں ہم سب جانتے ہیں کہ یہیں ہم کو ٹریٹمنٹ مل سکتا ہے, ہماری گورنمنٹ ہماری ہر چیز پہ رسپانسیبل ہو سکتا ہے, رسپانسیبل ہے, ہماری ہیلتھ سے لے کے دوسرے تیسرے. جب یہ کووڈ-19 آیا تو اب آپ اگر پاکستان کے دوسرے علاقوں میں, اگر پنجاب یا سندھ یا دوسرے علاقوں سے کمپیئر بلوچستان کو کریں, ابھی 3 مہینے ہو گئے ہیں کہ بلوچستان میں صرف ایک جگہ کووڈ-19 کا ٹیسٹ ہوتا ہے, وہ بھی کوئٹہ میں. کوئٹہ اگر میں جہاں رہتا ہوں گوادر اور تربت ان ڈسٹرکوں میں, تو 1200 کلومیٹر ہوتا ہے. اگر کسی کو کورونا, تربت میں کورونا اگر آ گیا تو وہ 1200 کلومیٹر کیسے جا سکتا ہے ٹیسٹ کرنے کے لیے. دوسری بات, وہاں ابھی تک مساجد کھلے ہیں, یعنی ابھی ترابی نماز ترابیاں ہو رہی ہیں, سب کچھ ہو رہا ہے وہاں. یہ تبلیغی لوگ جو ریونٹ تو بند ہے پنجاب میں, شکر ہے خدا کا. تو آپ سوچو کہ وہاں ریونٹ بند ہے, کاران, تربت, گوادر, پنجگور اور نوش کی ان علاقوں میں پنجاب سے جو لوگ ہیں, جو تبلیغی لوگ ہیں, یا سندھ سے ہیں یا پشتونخوا سے ہیں, تو وہ ابھی تک بلوچستان کے مسجدوں میں تبلیغ کے لیے گھوم رہے ہیں. ان میں سے میرے خیال میں آپ لوگوں کو یہ نیوز شاید آپ لوگوں نے کسی نے سنا ہوگا. تو یہ مائنڈ سیٹ کو ہم کیسے بدل سکتے ہیں کہ بھائی یہ ایک وبا ہے, یہ کسی کو بھی مار سکتا ہے, یہ کسی کو بھی, اگر میں تندرست ہوں, مجھے نہیں, میرے گھر والے تو بڈھے ہیں نا, اگر میں اجتماع میں گیا ہوں یا نماز پڑھنے گیا ہوں, تو وہاں تو لوگ زیادہ تر تو بوڑھے لوگ آتے ہیں, تو وہاں تو یہ وبا نہیں, یہ تو تبھی بن جائے گا. تو آپ ایک دوسرا چیز میں ایڈ کروں جو گزشتہ 2-3 ہفتے پہلے آیا تھا. کوئٹہ میں ڈاکٹرز احتجاج کر رہے ہیں کہ ہمیں جو ٹیسٹ کے ایکوپمنٹس ہیں, پتہ نہیں کیا ہیں, یہ دے دو. اور ان کو پھر گرفتار کر لیا گیا, پھر بعد میں دوسرے دن چھوڑ دیا. لیکن وہاں یہ حالت ہے, آپ ان کو کیسے دیکھتے ہیں؟ تھینک یو ویری مچ.
کہ صاحب میں اردو میں ٹرائی کرتا ہوں, میرا گرامر 100% نہیں ہوگا, مگر میں
It's okay, fine, you can tell in English.
نہیں, وہ اردو میں ٹرائی کر. دیکھ, نمبر 1, ایک تو میں اس چیز کا ایکسپرٹ نہیں ہوں, بیکاز یہ उस पे भी आते हैं ना कि भाई ये वायरोलॉजिस्ट वगैरह की, बट आई कैन ओनली, मैं अपना पर्सनल व्यू दे सकते हैं. लेट्स सपोज कि जो नंबर्स जो आ रहे हैं पाकिस्तान में अभी कितने 500-600 लोग फौत हुआ ना कोविड-19 से.
600 के करीब.
600 करीब एक 180 मिलियन की आबादी पे.
बहुत कम है.
जरा सोचें.
निस्बतन बहुत कम है.
बहुत कम है.
मतलब वहाँ टेस्ट भी नहीं हुआ.
मैं सर जो बलूचिस्तान में तुर्बत में एक बंदा मरता है, अगर वो कोरोना से मर गया किसी को कुछ पता नहीं चलता है.
ठीक है, ये भी है, बट मेरे पर्सनल व्यू मैं आपको देता हूँ. मैं सिर्फ ये दे सकते हैं
भी सर, मेरा पॉइंट जो था वो मेंटलिटी पे था, जो अभी तक लोग मस्जिदों में.
मैं उस पे आ रहा हूँ. ये एंड वंस अगेन ये मेरे पर्सनल व्यू है. ठीक है. मैं जब पाकिस्तान जाता हूँ मैं लाजमी बीमार पड़ता हूँ. ठीक है. मैं तो बीमार पड़ता हूँ वहाँ पे. अगर मैं 3 हफ्ते के लिए जाता हूँ, 1 हफ्ते तो मेरे पेट खराब होना है, कोई ना कोई वायरस तो लगना है, बैक्टीरिया हो या वायरस हो, कुछ भी हो. मेरे ख्याल से पाकिस्तान के लोगों के इम्यून सिस्टम इज हायर. इफ कुछ डॉक्टर्स जो है वो ये भी कह रहे हैं कि एक फिट, एक खजूम, क्या कहते हैं इसको, एक हेल्दी इंसान, इसको क्वारंटीन करना ज़्यादा नुकसानदेह है, क्योंकि हमारे बॉडी जो है रेजिस्टेंस कैसे बढ़ते, टू बी इन टच विद द वायरस, टू बी इन टच विद द बैक्टीरिया. तो मे बी इट्स बेटर फॉर हेल्दी पीपल नॉट टू बी लॉक्ड अप. एंड आई थिंक दिस ये व्यू मेन स्ट्रीम में नहीं आ रहा है. सो द क्वेश्चन इज, क्या उनकी माइंडसेट चेंज करना है या नहीं? But again, this is my personal view.
Yeah,
Why?
okay.
Maybe we don't need to change the mindset.
Yeah, we need to divert our conversation or to the subject matter in here in Europe, especially to Pakistani diaspora.
Yeah.
So we are not taking the question or opinion about what is happening in Pakistan, please.
Okay.
So because we have doctors here, Zainab, Anam. So if they want to throw some light on it, they can. Or otherwise, somebody want to ask some question, please.
Mansoor sir.
My name is Mansoor.
Can we say something? I think we shouldn't brush his question on a side because it's about Pakistan. I think his question is not really about Pakistan. It's about a mindset. It's again the struggle and the contradiction between the religious scholars and the scientists, which has been happening. Which has been happening in Christian countries, in Buddhist countries, in Hindu countries, in Muslim countries. So this has been happening here, and this discussion is happening in Holland as well, in Germany as well. People who say, but because here the rule of law is stronger, people don't dare to go to a mosque or to a church or to, and they are doing online worship and everything, which is okay. But there, because it depends on, in Pakistan, that lobby is so strong that they take on the government and all the authorities, and they say they think they can break all the laws and rules and they don't apply to them. I think that was more of his point, as I understood it, than anything else.
Yes, of course, sir. I mean,
sorry, carry on. Rana sir.
My name is Mansoor Alam, living in Holland, and I'm a journalist. Thank you very much, Arshad Samsi Sahab and Naeem Arif Sahab, for a good talk. My question is, at this moment, we are talking about social distance, hygienic conditions, and less people are working on their places like supermarkets, offices, and because of 1.5 distance. So what will be, and the nature of job is going to change, and the less people are going to their work. So what will be the, in future, coming years, what will be the changes in the jobs, and what will be the impact on economy and also on diaspora?
I think Naeem Saab answered a few of those questions in your lecture. Maybe you can continue.
The consequences of 1.5 society are not known. Nobody knows what exactly is going to happen. That's exactly the problem. As our PM Rutte said last month, we have to take 100% decisions with 50% of information. Much about COVID-19 is yet to be investigated, but the economic consequences and the consequences for jobs, we are now in Holland reopening our lockdown partially in the hope that there's not coming a second breakout, because the biggest fear is a second breakout of the COVID-19. So if next Monday some businesses are opening, schools are opening, the first 2 or 3 weeks are very, very challenging to see what is the development of numbers of infections, IC admissions. So it is very difficult to see, mention the consequences which are in the future. Predicting is very difficult with Susab, especially if it's about the future.
Exactly, and if I can add to that, so that's why I think the only thing we can do is, we are now living in a zone of uncertainty. The only thing you can do is to prepare yourself how to deal with the zone of uncertainty. Mentally and physically and financially, in all these ways.
I saw just in the chat box that Tayyab said he had a small question. Ranu sir, can you take it?
Yeah, please, Tayyab.
I was just adding to this migration problem. You know, migration problem is also made by these countries like Europe. You know, take it fish industry for example. They are taking all the fish with you know all the fishes of Africa, and then they create actually a lot of migration problem. For example, subsidiary of grain. I watched a documentary yesterday that they are subsidizing European grain, and the farmers in Africa cannot, it's not feasible for them to produce their own. And that's all and the wars, you know, what they are creating in Syria, for example. So this will be very, very high impact on those people, you know, who really, nobody wants to leave their country, you know. They are well settled there. The people were well settled in Syria. People are well settled in Africa. But if you take their bread, you know, you take their source of income by actively doing all these things, subsidizing the industry here, or taking all the fish from the ocean and leaving all these small fishers there, who don't have any where should they go? So they see the Europe or America or whatever the big countries, and they just come here. So I think the problem of the migration is it will be high impact on those poor people, more poor people, if you stop them coming. You understand what I mean? So this is a big dilemma. I mean, I don't know.
You're right, sir.
I mean, most of it is self-created, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm. Rubina is here. Anam is here. Zainab is here. Saima is here. Would you want to add in something or want to ask something?
We need some female input.
Yeah, please.
I think, yeah, the question which Wahid asked is answered very well in this session also. There's too much masculinity in the room.
Right.
There is, no, there are
they're present.
good numbers.
They are present.
Yeah,
yes.
they are present.
I know,
but
I know. Yeah.
I think, okay. Then,
Hello?
yeah, Saima. Yeah, please.
I have only one question. I don't know I'm wrong or right, but lockdown is only a solution of of this virus? I don't know. So I'm curious about this. Please answer me, Naim Saab or Arshad Saab. I have because in my opinion, lockdown is not a solution. But I don't know. It's because as Arshad Saab said, because we have lot of problem, and I also felt some stress during the lockdown. So is the only solution of lockdown?
I love your question, Simon. If you look at what we are trying, let's say we find a vaccination, everybody gets vaccinated, and then COVID-25 comes, or COVID-20. What are we going to do? Lock up again and then wait for the, it's not doable. So this is not a solution. This is just a patch up. The real solution, I think, long term is to invest billions in changing the life for people so they have less stress. That means people should have better work environments, pay people good wages, make sure everybody has healthy food, etc. So our immune system is improved, so we are less vulnerable for new viruses. That's where the money should go in society and to healthcare, in my opinion. I totally agree. Lockdown and vaccination is not a solution. It's a patch up, but that's my personal opinion again.
Right, it's a patch up for the time being, because
Yes.
the main goal of lockdowns is to flatten the curve, so that the capacity of health sector is not challenged more, because the capacity of IC, intensive care units, is the most important to look at, because if there are more people sick than the capacity of ICUs, then you have to choose. Does a doctor have to help a 20-year-old or a 50-year-old?
I agree to that, Naim Saab. That I understand that part of the lockdown, and that works. It's effective.
It
but
works.
on the long term, is this a solution for the global population to stay healthy in an environment where there are trillions of viruses? So it's like they say, if you have a fish living in a polluted fish bowl, are you going to isolate the fish or clean the water? We have to clean the water. We have to clean the environment in which we are living, and take care of all the things which are now causing a lot of distress and stress among people.
Right.
Look at it in America, half of the population is obese. That affects your immune system, and that's why you have more chance on COVID-19. So we need to tackle those, but I don't hear anybody talking about those issues.
I think you're right.
I'm sorry.
सर एक मिनट रही साहब, रोजमेरी कुछ पूछना चाह रही हैं जी। रोज,
मेरा सवाल ये है कि पाकिस्तान में हमारे पास इम्यून सिस्टम के लिए हमारे लोग, पाकिस्तान में इतनी पॉवर्टी है कि इम्यून सिस्टम के बारे में वो इतना सोचते नहीं है। बहुत सारे लोग सोचते हैं कि हाँ, क्योंकि हमें पहले से मलेरिया के इंजेक्शंस लगे हैं और इस तरह के जो इंजेक्शंस हैं हमें पहले से लगे हुए हैं, इसलिए अब हम पे कोविड-19 जो है वो इतना असर नहीं करेगा। तो मेरा सवाल ये है कि पाकिस्तान में इम्यून सिस्टम के लिए लोग भूखे मर रहे हैं, और इम्यून सिस्टम के लिए आपको अच्छा फूड और अच्छा खाना चाहिए। तो जब हम सोचते हैं कि हाँ, हमारे पास अगर 19 खत्म हो गया तो 20 आ जाएगा, 25 आ जाएगा, तो क्या हम ये सोच सकते हैं कि फिर इस तरह पाकिस्तान को हम छोड़ देते हैं कि हमारे जो भूखे लोग मर रहे हैं तो मरते रहे, हमें क्या? तो इसका मतलब ये है कि हमें किसी को तो हमें करना चाहिए ना, कि प्रेशर करना चाहिए, कि बजाय कि वो दूसरे इस तरह के वो इदारों पे या ऐसे मंसूबों पे पैसा लगाएं। बेहतर है कि लोगों के लिए हेल्दी फूड, हेल्थ के लिए और इस तरह की चीज़ों के लिए कोई कुछ करें। तो क्या इसके बारे में कुछ आप कहेंगे कि आपका क्या ख्याल है इसके बारे में? अगर 19 खत्म होता है, 20 आता है, तो लोगों का क्या होगा उसके लिए?
आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं। मेरे ख्याल से हेल्दी फूड, हेल्दी एयर है ना, एंड हेल्दी वाटर। पाकिस्तान में पानी की कितने प्रॉब्लम है, ये तीनों चीज़ों पे अगर इस पर हम पैसे डाल लेते तो हमारी vulnerability to a next virus is much lesser. इन चीजों पे एड्रेस करना चाहिए, उसकी that is a long term solution, I believe.
Right. Lockdown is only a solution for the time being, but not a solution for the long run.
Yes.
Yeah. Anam, please, would you like to ask some question? Anam? You can ask.
Yeah. I was
Dr. Anam. Dr. Anam, just, introduce
I was sitting
yourself.
with Maya, so it's very destructive, so I allow it to open. So my question was also not directed to something specific. I wrote it for everyone also. So my question was also more not specific to anyone, but how do we see this pandemic personally also? What changes us as Pakistanis? What it means to our perspective? How do we change individually or as a group towards an effort? We are saying some things that it is highlighted, how it's mentally, how this, but is it like there's some cause that's highlighted in your mind? What does it mean? What does it teach us as a community also? Just wanted to pick your brains on it. Maybe it's too gray, sorry, but
yeah, and I might want to say something about this.
Yeah.
If I personally, talking personally, last 2 months I'm at home, I'm also working at home, I have learned a lot more about my youngest daughter, who is 8 years old. I am always on the run, in the car, at the office. So in the last 2 months, I have seen more behavior of her, and I see more of her character. So this is a very personal, personal note. So there are positive aspects of COVID.
It's a beautiful question, Anam, and I think, of course, I can only speak for myself. And the thing I've been noticing is that if I was at this moment in the healthcare, or I was a teacher, or I was a police officer, the day the lockdown closes, I would go on a strike. I would say, now you give me a double salary, or I will stop working. It shows how important those people are.
Yeah.
And I hope we really, after this COVID-19, that we start rewarding them for the important work they do. And so that's a reflection for myself.
We heard in Dutch in the last 2 months a word, vitale beroepen.
Yeah.
Vital professions.
Yeah.
I think this word is going to stay.
And I know the other side, the BS jobs, that's another reflection. So, I mean, with all the respect, the work I do, the world can be without it. I know that. So this is a reflection I have.
Yeah.
Murvai, what is your comment on this question? Because it is related to Pakistani diaspora. Raisa, मैं आता हूँ आपकी तरफ, please. Yeah.
डियास्पोरा मैं उस टॉपिक पे जो पहले बात हो रही थी, लॉकडाउन का जो इफेक्ट जो है वो ये कि बहुत सारे हुकूक जो है उनको सल्व किया जाता है, और पहले भी मैंने इससे पहले जिक्र किया था। तो ये इसकी कीमत जो है ना बहुत ज़्यादा है लॉकडाउन की, और लॉकडाउन इसलिए किया जाता है ताकि वो फिर उनको आज़ादी हो अपनी मर्जी के मुताबिक कवानीन की तस्दीक करें, समझे, और उसको इम्पैक्ट करें। तो और इम्पैक्ट ये लॉकडाउन को ये इसको उस क्रेडिट के ज़रिए वो जो देते हैं, मतलब मुख्तलिफ इदारों को, और पैसा जो है पानी की तरह बहाते हैं। तो ये यहाँ यूरोप में अमीर मुल्क तो इसको मतलब बर्दाश्त कर सकते हैं, और यहाँ यूरोप में भी देखें जिसके पास ज़्यादा पैसा है, इस वक्त जर्मनी से ज़्यादा किसी भी मुल्क को इतना पैसा नहीं है, तो इन्होंने इस लिहाज से डिसिप्लिन भी है, पैसा भी है, और इनकी स्टैटिस्टिक देख लें, मतलब दूसरे इटली, फ्रांस, स्पेन और पुर्तगाल वगैरह के सबसे कम मतलब ये है कि यहाँ पर अमवात हुई है। तो ये लेकिन जो गरीब मुल्क जो है, पाकिस्तान हुए, हिंदुस्तान हुए, श्रीलंका, बांग्लादेश, और वो इतना पैसा कहाँ से लाएं? ये लॉकडाउन, जब लॉकडाउन किया जाता है तो जो लोग मेहनत कशी से अपना पेट पालते हैं, उनको वो कहाँ से पैसा लाएंगे? वो कहाँ से, उनको खाने को कौन देगा? تو یہ تو یہاں پر جو اس میں ایک ذکر آیا تھا کہ لاک ڈاؤن تو ایک سنگین وہ ہے کیا کہتے ہیں آلہ جو استعمال کیا جاتا ہے. اس کے علاوہ اور بھی بہت سارے مطلب راستے ہو سکتے ہیں کہ کووڈ-19 کل کووڈ-20 یا 25 جو کچھ بھی آئیں گے تو ان کو اس طرح سے میاں روی سے اس کا مقابلہ کیا جائے. یعنی یہ جو لاک ڈاؤن کا جو اب چین میں جو لاک ڈاؤن ہوا تھا تو اس کو تو وہ ہم کہتے ہیں کہ وہاں تو ڈکٹیٹرشپ ہے اور اس کا مذاق اڑاتے ہیں کہ بھائی وہ تو سب کچھ کر سکتے ہیں, وہ تو انہوں نے عوام کا ستیہ ناش کر کے جو ہے نا, لیکن ہم وہ نہیں کر سکتے کیونکہ ہم آزاد ملک ہیں. ہمارے یہاں جو ہے ہر شہری جو ہے آزاد ہے اور لیکن اس کے باوجود کرتے وہی ہے. یعنی لاک ڈاؤن کے ذریعے یعنی چور دروازے سے کام پھر وہی کرتے ہیں جو چین نے کھلے دھڑے سے کیا تھا.
Let me speak now.
Yeah, sir, please, اشتیاق صاحب.
دیکھیں سر, یہ ذرا آرگیومنٹ کا سٹرکچر مجھے سمجھ نہیں آ رہا. احترام کے ساتھ سارے دوستوں کے ساتھ, یعنی اگر وہ لاک ڈاؤن نہ کریں اور ایک دم کیجولٹیز بڑھ جائیں تب ایک مصیبت ہے کہ ویئر از دا گورنمنٹ, انہوں نے کیا کیا ہے. آئی ایم ناٹ ڈیفینڈنگ لاک ڈاؤن, آئی ایم جسٹ سیئنگ دیٹ دا ورلڈ ہیز بین کاٹ with its pants down. Nobody was ever prepared for this. اگر وہ جو یہ ہوا ہے اسپینش فلو اور اس کے بعد یہ ابھی سارک ہوا تھا, اس کے بعد وہ ایلبا یا وٹ ایور ان افریقہ,
ایبولا,
جو ان کی جو ہے وہ کیا کہتے ہیں ڈسیمینیشن اسپریڈ جو ہے وہ اتنا کوئک نہیں ہے. سو ایوری باڈی ہیز بین کاٹ آف بیلنس. اور لاک ڈاؤن ڈیفینیٹلی آئی ایگری از نو سولوشن. یہ تو اکانومی کو ڈسٹروائے کرتا ہے, لوگوں کے لائیولیہڈ جو ہیں وہ ختم ہو گئے ہیں. سو اس کو پرماننٹ نہیں کیا جا سکتا, لیکن اگر یہ ایک دم نہ کرتے تو پوری دنیا میں کیوس ہو جاتا. اور یہ ایک نی جرک ریئیکشن ہے. Nobody knows if this was the best thing to do, but this was the only thing to do to keep to the minimum the fatalities and casualties. So with the hindsight of wisdom جو ہے نا, ہم اس کو assess کریں گے, اس کو تو یہ ہو رہا ہے. اور اس کے پیچھے مجھے کوئی کنسپیریسی نہیں لگتی, کیونکہ اگر اتنی بڑی کنسپیریسی دنیا میں چلتی ہے تو اب وہی کنسپیریسیز کے خلاف کنسپیریسی ہو گئی ہے کہ ان کے ساتھ یہ دنیا چل نہیں رہی. How can we keep on arguing conspiracy over another conspiracy over another conspiracy?
نہیں, ایک بات
I think in the world basically anarchy ہے. This whole idea that there is a centralized control power sitting in the Wall Street or China or whatever is a myth. China کے ایک مارکیٹ سے چیز نکل کے ساری دنیا میں پھیل سکتی ہے. یہ ہے گلوبلائزیشن کا ڈارک فیز جس کی محل نعیم عارف صاحب بات کر رہے تھے. اور دنیا میں اس طرح یہ ساری تبدیلیاں آئی ہیں, اور ہر تبدیلی کے بعد چانسز بنے ہیں اس کو امپروو کرنے کے, یا آپ ظاہر ہے جیسے کہ ایک اور آلٹرنیٹیو ہے کہ اور ڈکٹیٹرشپ آ جائے گی, تو اس کے لیے جنگ کے لیے لڑائی کے لیے ہم کو تیار ہونا چاہیے. بٹ ون کانٹ ایٹ ڈیورنگ دس فیز آف انسرٹنٹی make it sound permanent. That's not possible. Who will sell the products? Where will be the markets? اگر وہ ساری بند کر دیں, یہ کیا کہتے ہیں سپر مارکیٹس, تو جو کیپٹلسٹ نیو لبرلزم کیپٹلزم وٹ ایور, how are they going to make their profit? What's the whole idea about going into this argument? I think we should have a systematic debate or discussion on the diaspora implications, جس کے یہ دو اسپیکرز نے بڑا اچھا ہمیں پریپیئر کیا. اینڈ آئی تھنک دیٹس واٹ وی شوڈ بی ڈوئنگ. جو all the scenarios in the world, well, who has the time? میں بات اتنا کہنا چاہتا ہوں.
میں ایک جاری رکھوں گا ایک بات کو.
عامر تھوڑا سا ذرا جلدی کر لیجیے گا پلیز.
اس میں دیکھیں وہ بات آپ کی صحیح ہے کہ ہم جو ہے وہ کسی کانسپریسی سیناریو پہ میں نہیں یقین کرنا چاہیے, اور لیکن بات یہ ہے کہ اگر ہم فی الحال صرف میں ہالینڈ کی مثال دوں, پچھلے 10 سالوں میں جو یہاں کی جو نیو لبرل گورنمنٹ ہے उसने जो डिस्काउंट है हेल्थ पे और कल्चरल सेक्टर पे वो इतना ह्यूज है कि अभी पिछले 10 सालों में 4 हॉस्पिटल जहाँ पे क्लोज हुए हैं।
ठीक है।
तो बात ये है कि जो पहले बात हो रही थी ना हेल्थ सिस्टम की, उसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट हो, तो ये वहाँ पे टोटल डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट हो रही थी पिछले 10 सालों में। और उसका नतीजा ये है कि यूएन के कुछ इदारों ने 2018 में कहा था कि हाँ भाई इस किस्म के वायरस आ सकते हैं, उसके लिए कोई तैयारी करनी चाहिए आपको। पर लेकिन यहाँ पर वो चीज पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट उससे
ठीक है, आई एग्री, दैट्स करेक्ट, ये
Very
बात
much.
दुरुस्त है।
Wahid
उसके
साहब,
लिए
please.
दुनिया तैयार नहीं थी। हाँ, अब
Wahid
ये
साहब,
चेंजेस
please
आएंगे।
unmute yourself. Wahid साहब, unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
मेरे ख्याल से we can come to the closing if there is not any big question. Or just picking up on last remark from Dr. Mugai, I think that is absolutely true that that there have been the health sector has been taken over by insurance companies and by profit and has been privatized. So that needs absolutely rethinking. Let me just move to some closing remarks. I think I need to open my screen again. Share. Is my screen on?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, everyone. As it turns out, it's a very vast subject with lots of aspects, and we obviously pressed with time. We cannot cover everything, but there are lots and lots of implication and some very controversial points of views as well, because every country is handling it in their own way, and some are completely 180 degrees against each other, and everyone has some kind of explanation. But one thing which is coming out of all these discussions, writing this down while we were all discussing, I think we all are already doing it, and we will be doing it more and more, revisiting and re-evaluating the way we live. That's one, I think, sound big conclusion out of all this discussion, that we have been depleting the resources beyond our means, and this has to be rethought. Then I think there is a lot of disillusion coming up with the existing system, and you see a lot of people actually now in the discussions even talking about the new world order, whether it's going to be a new world order or not, or to what extent, it remains to be seen, but there is already a talk about it. And I think we also see rise in polarization, and right-wing extremism is going to be stronger. And there will be, in response to that, as doctors have also said, there will be pushback, political uprising. The inequality gap is going to widen, is widening, because if you look at the 2% top population, which about owns 80% of the wealth of the world, they see this as a small inconvenience, a small interruption that will blow away. Now I am I am poorer with by 200 million or 22 or 2 billion euros or dollars, doesn't matter. And I hope, or we all sincerely hope, that this does not become survival of the richest instead of survival of the fittest. It is becoming, and we can see that the money which is being poured into multinational companies, we saw on one hand the people who do online deliveries working almost 24/7 without any rest. And then we see persons like Jeff Bezos, who's CEO of Amazon, that his personal wealth in 2 weeks increased by $24 billion. So this kind of, and these people, they love crisis actually, because it increases their wealth in short term and even in long term. So we hope that that the inequality gap will not widen so much that it becomes unbearable. There will be new kinds of reforms, new forms of reforms. As I said, probably people talking about a new world order. We are seeing less regularity barriers on online tools. I think online businesses already, which was in some countries 40 to 50% of the total trade, was being done on online. This probably is going to increase, and even some of the barriers will come down, because this thing will be promoted big time. And Then we see more dependency and growth on digital lifestyle that we already see. Naeem Saab mentioned about come later to education, etc. And then privacy under threat. Murgai Saab made that point, and I think various speakers made that. This is, it is a big thing. It's not about that they are going to trace what time I get up and where do I go and where do I get out and where do I buy my grocery. It's about the total control on people's lives. It's really, we do whatever we want to do, and they should do what we want them to do. And the more data we have about people, this data obsession and the craziness about collecting data, big data, use of data. We have soon seen about the app in Holland, how it came up all of a sudden and how it ended up in a disaster. So this is about control. Then rise of telemedicine, education, so everything in health and education and in much more systems working at home. That is obviously going to rise, and it will solve a lot of their problems also, because they have shortage of health personnel and they have shortage of teachers in many ways. And this can help to bring down, as they wish, is immigration as well. Now, the big governments, the big thing about these neoliberals was government should be smaller, should not interfere. We should leave it to the market to regulate everything. Now they themselves are contradicting themselves, and they are making a big comeback because they are taking control of lots of things they wanted to get rid of. Though in private hands, they are pumping tons and tons of money to keep some of the companies afloat. So they are themselves contradicting themselves. So this big government, and Spain has already privatized the healthcare system. So you might see some kind of reversal of these decisions. Science is big, has made big gains. I think people are asking for investment. Our panelists said the same thing, because they realized that there has been lack of investment in science, and we still have, particularly people like in our country, कि दम करा लो तो ठीक हो जाएगा, मौलवी साहब फूक मार दें तो कोरोना नहीं आएगा. I mean, those kinds of debates and discussions have been very exciting in the media.
helps also.
Sorry?
Andrak helps also.
and last but not the least, it's going in the benefit of, again, big corporations, that the climate concerns will take a back seat. I'll end this with the quote from this Vivian lady. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass, it's about learning how to dance in the rain. I think both our speakers and Dr. Saab and everyone said that instead of waiting it to pass, sit in the isolation and wait what happens. It's how to learn to dance in the rain. If it's raining, come on, Dancing in the Rain, I think you know that movie. So with that closing slide, I would like to sincerely thank you, our panelists, our participants, and for very active participation and making this is a nice success. This was our first online dialogue, and I think it went well despite some small hiccups here and there, but hopefully we will get better, and we will soon announce our next program also as a webinar and as a dialogue in the same fashion. And we will check with you guys about the topic, and we come back. We had a topic in mind. We would like to share it with you and see what kind of response we get. So these are our addresses. If you like to get some more information about OPP, you can always get in touch with one of us, and we will be delighted to have a closer dialogue and discuss things which are unfinished today. Thank you very much, and be safe and be happy.